In Justification and Application, Habermas expands his discourse ethics to explore how moral norms can be justified and applied in practical, real-world contexts. His central concern is bridging the gap between theoretical moral reasoning and the actual application of moral principles in society, particularly within pluralistic democratic systems. This work builds on his broader theory of communicative action, emphasizing that moral norms are not solely personal or subjective, but are instead derived from intersubjective rational discourse. At the core of Habermas' argument is the idea that moral norms must be justified through communication and deliberation among all affected individuals. For a moral norm to be valid, it must gain acceptance through rational discourse, where individuals engage in reasoned argument and mutual understanding. This process of justification departs from traditional, individualistic moral theories that focus on personal belief systems and instead posits that moral norms acquire legitimacy only through collective agreement. Habermas' emphasis on communicative rationality underlines the importance of giving every person an equal opportunity to participate in the moral discourse. Without such inclusion, any moral norm would lack the necessary foundation of universal validity. The principle of universalization plays a key role in Habermas' discourse ethics. It requires that moral norms be evaluated by considering whether their general observance could be accepted by all affected parties. This principle, while reminiscent of Kant's categorical imperative, is reinterpreted within Habermas' framework of communicative action. Rather than relying on individual moral reasoning, Habermas insists that moral principles must be subject to public scrutiny and agreed upon through dialogue. This process ensures that the norms do not simply reflect personal or cultural biases, but are instead shaped by the input of all those involved in the moral community. In addition to justifying moral norms, Habermas turns his attention to the challenge of applying these norms to concrete situations. He acknowledges the complexities involved in translating abstract moral principles into specific actions, particularly given the diversity of ethical and cultural perspectives within modern societies. The application of moral norms requires practical judgment, which he terms moral judgment or application discourse. This process involves interpreting moral principles in light of the specific circumstances of a given case, while maintaining the ethical integrity of the original norm. In doing so, Habermas distinguishes between moral questions, which concern universal norms, and ethical questions, which are more context-specific and focus on particular values or ways of life. In pluralistic societies, where individuals and groups often hold diverging moral and ethical views, discourse ethics offers a way to navigate these differences. Habermas advocates for democratic deliberation, where moral conflicts are resolved through open rational dialogue that includes all affected individuals. Such a model of democratic deliberation emphasizes the importance of achieving consensus, although Habermas recognizes that this consensus is provisional and always open to further revision. He stresses that the process of reaching consensus is just as important as the outcome itself, as it ensures that all perspectives are heard and considered in the decision-making process. One of the broader implications of Habermas' theory is its connection to democratic legitimacy. He argues that for laws and political decisions to be legitimate, they must be the product of rational discourse that allows for inclusive participation. In this sense, democratic systems function best when they create institutional spaces where moral and political disagreements can be debated openly. This process of deliberation not only reflects the shared values of a democratic society, but also ensures that laws are justifiable to those governed by them. In the context of law and politics, Habermas explores how discourse ethics can inform the legal system, particularly in terms of translating moral norms into laws. He asserts that for laws to be legitimate, they must be derived from the same process of inclusive deliberation as moral norms. This requires impartiality in legal reasoning, ensuring that laws are applied fairly and justly to all individuals, regardless of their particular ethical or cultural backgrounds. Judges, according to Habermas, play a crucial role in this process, as they must interpret laws in ways that uphold the principles of fairness and justice. The judiciary then serves as a mediator between abstract moral principles and their concrete application in legal cases. Habermas' concept of deliberative democracy further emphasizes the importance of ongoing discourse in shaping and revising laws. Legal norms, much like moral norms, should not be viewed as fixed or immutable, but should instead be subject to continual critique and adjustment based on rational debate. This deliberative model of democracy ensures that political decisions and legal systems remain responsive to the evolving needs and values of the society they serve. However, Habermas is not oblivious to the challenges of implementing discourse ethics in practice. One of the major difficulties lies in addressing power imbalances that can distort the process of communication. In real-world contexts, certain individuals or groups may have more influence or resources, potentially skewing the outcome of deliberations in their favor. Habermas acknowledges this concern and advocates for institutional safeguards to ensure that all voices are heard equally in the discourse. Another challenge is the application of universal moral norms in culturally diverse societies, where deeply held ethical beliefs may not easily align with the norms agreed upon through discourse. Habermas suggests that in such cases, the democratic process should focus on facilitating ongoing dialogue, rather than attempting to impose a definitive resolution. Critics of Habermas have raised concerns about his over-reliance on rational discourse as the foundation for moral reasoning. Some argue that moral deliberation must also take into account emotional, historical, or cultural dimensions, which are often difficult to express fully in rational terms. Habermas defends his position by arguing that while emotions and traditions certainly influence ethical life, they must ultimately be subject to rational critique to ensure fairness and impartiality. Another critique is that the principle of universalization, while valuable in theory, may be too abstract to offer concrete guidance in specific moral dilemmas. Habermas responds to this by emphasizing the role of practical judgment in applying abstract norms to particular cases. Despite these challenges, Habermas' justification and application remains a critical contribution to modern ethical and political thought. His discourse ethics provides a robust framework for resolving moral conflicts in democratic societies, highlighting the importance of communication, rationality, and inclusivity. The work's relevance extends to contemporary debates about democracy, law, and morality, especially in increasingly pluralistic and globalized societies. By insisting that moral norms must be justified through rational discourse and applied through fair and impartial deliberation, Habermas offers a pathway for addressing the moral and political challenges of the modern world. His commitment to inclusivity and procedural justice ensures that discourse ethics remains a powerful tool for navigating the complexities of moral reasoning in diverse societies.